mighty Super Nintendo. This particular one is a one chip and it has no audio, so I'm either going to swap in a repaired Super Famicom board and install a Super CIC, or repair the no audio problem. So to do that we're going to have to take it apart and start replacing capacitors like a madman, as I usually do. So I found that I already had a whole bunch on hand, and there's a few back there somewhere. In a future video though we'll be looking at this. This is a Super CIC by Bad Ad. SNES one chip all-in-one board. So it's got the in-game reset and the Super CIC all on one chip. Works better with the one chips from what I understand. Can also work with the other not one chip models, but you know, we'll see how we go. So I'm going to take this apart and let's have a look at the internals. So what are some of the very first impressions that we get looking inside here? Well, not much. It's got its original fuse. That's exciting. It's a bit dirty. Generally, taking these apart with one hand is a very bad idea. So many bits of sharp metal. I'm going to need my other hand for this, so I'm going to take it apart a bit more so we can get a bit deeper and actually get the board out of the machine and this heatsink removed, so we can have a look at the capacitors and everything on board. Let's do that right now. So there's a pretty big chip. That's why it's coined one chip. Compared to the earlier boards, it's one big chip instead of about 4. I think they've definitely cut down the amount of chips anyway. We've still got this little lone 2.2 microfarad capacitor out here. Reset switch. This is a PAL CPU one chip 01. Now I noticed that on the 01 non-PAL versions they didn't always have, so I can just get this into a bit of focus, the bipolar chip. There it is. So the 01s in NTSC land didn't always have that. It was the 02 model that definitely replaced it, made sure it was there, whereas the PAL ones probably released a bit later. We're lucky enough to get the bipolar cap. Obviously doesn't stop it from killing the audio though. So I'll have a bit of a look into that. But the capacitors are all physically there, which is a good sign. There's no hole in the S-Mix chip here. Last one of these I worked on, there was a physical hole in it. It actually blown through the microchip, which was bad. Failing capacitor replacement and everything, we'll see if we can tap into audio from somewhere else around here. I have been talking with someone over the internet and they've given me some suggestions, so I'll give it a go, see what happens. There's the APU. Sitting pretty over there. And of course, giant capacitor. $7805. Bunch of diodes, that's pretty fun. So I'm going to get into this and desolder all these capacitors. At the moment I don't have the 33 microfarads. They should be in early next week. So let's get going. One more thing that's pretty cool about this is that they've designed the board in a way so that all the negative values face up and to the left, except for this capacitor, which faces down. But all these ones, they all face, these two face to the left. These are all left. That's bipolar, or non-polar. It's not switching between a manic state and a depressed state, is it? No. Okay, so there we go. That's all we got to do. Simple. Just desolder everything. we'll be back after we've desoldered everything. Makes sense? And there you have it, all the capacitors are removed. This is currently a capacitorless, well, unless you count all the surface mount ones on the back. Capacitor, electrolytic capacitorless. Anyway, there we go, there's C9. Look at that. Clear of a capacitor. Look at all these pads intact. And that's using the tweezers, so at about, what am I doing it at 300 degrees instead of 350. I do 350 for soldering, and it looks like 300 seems to be a bit better. It doesn't explode the capacitors as quickly, so you've got a bit of time before they catch fire. There's the S-Mix chip again, and there was another, there he is. So on the earlier models they had two of the 33s here. In this model though, they've moved it over to one of these. I can't remember which one. In fact, I'm going to have to look at a previous photo to work out what goes where. Now, the only other problem I've come across, I've also gone ahead and swapped in a new fuse for the sake of it. And the 7805 is missing. This capacitor, my replacement, is significantly fatter and also has a bigger lead spacing. So it does fit. It's just a bit outside the silk screen. Doesn't seem to affect that thing, which I thought would have been a bit of a problem, which is good. It doesn't. So it's more than acceptable. Given that I don't expect this board to live as well as it could have, I'm willing to compromise at this point. Although I'm very happy with these solder pads. Perfect, absolutely perfect. I mean, it couldn't have went better. Now I've just got to get the replacement capacitors on. We're still missing, of course, 133 microfarad, but we'll worry about that at a later date. Let's get it back together. No, let's do some things with the solder pads. Tidy them up, reflow them, use the desolder braid and make them as good as new. And from there, start adding the capacitors one by one. Figured I should just show this before I pack it all up. So most of the capacitors are installed. We're just missing, as you can see there, in that little gap, 233 microfarad, 25 volts. We did end up putting this one here, albeit a bit crooked. It's fine. There's a little 2.2, he's fine as well. And the giant cap, yeah, he fits in there. He's got enough clearance on either side. New 7805, new fuse. So looking pretty good. So we won't be able to test this until early next week, but we will have a video of finishing this up. Stay tuned. McRetro out.